let's kind of jump into this real fast. If I can get my computer to work. Let's click
Hey,
here.
Des,
There we
for those
go.
of you that didn't know, apparently there's some comment out there about Des. What happened? What do you mean you're not at Dato Kaseya? Apparently that news has been lost on the world. And so for those of you that didn't know and you're sitting in here today, you're finding out quickly.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
An excellent
Surprise.
adventure. 2023 surprise. Follow me on Facebook.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's set the landscape here and just kind of talk about cyber risk today. And cyber risk today should be a top concern for all company executives. I don't care if we're talking SMB, we're talking large enterprise, cyber risk should be a top concern because the media coverage of cyber attacks over the past few years has definitely increased the demand for cyber insurance. And it's made people realize, and not everybody, I mean, still every once in a while we have somebody come up and say, wow, I didn't even know there was cyber insurance. But yeah, there is cyber insurance to help you take care of keeping your business running after some type of security incident. And then obviously, let's all think back to what we've just, I think we're through it, but let's go back and talk about, the pandemic. All of a sudden that came along, and I remember when things started shutting down, I was kind of like, wow, what's this going to mean for all of us? Thinking of all these MSPs out there that I was friends with. I'm like, man, what's this going to do to their business? But you know what? MSPs, they basically kept the economy going through the pandemic. It turned out to be a boon for many MSPs and MSSPs out there, and vendors as well. But when it comes to cyber risk, all of a sudden, man, it has broadened that attack surface map because you got a hybrid remote workforce out there. So you got a lot more endpoints that a hacker could come in on. You've got an increased reliance on data. So it's all had a compounding, a really big impact on risk. Then, of course, now we got ransomware, we've got invoice fraud or manipulation, fund transfer fraud that's driving cyber losses. Yeah, so cyber risk today is a very real thing, and it should concern everyone, not just
Larry,
big companies. Yes, ma'am.
Larry, you hired me a little bit ago. You trusted me, right?
Yes, I trust you.
Yeah, you trust me? Do you trust me to reread all my emails and double check everything before I do them?
Okay, maybe I don't trust you.
I love that we go through this slide and we talk about cyber risk today. And I know throughout this presentation, we're going to talk about how quickly this risk is changing. But even if you just look at your people,
Yeah.
you know me, you probably trust me. And if you know me really well, you know that I'm on the road all the time. I'm doing things left, right, and center. And even though I go through all of the security trainings across the board, I am still one of your biggest risks. Your employees, us, we are one of your biggest risks. And until you decide to absolutely trust all your employees and all your businesses and all their staff and over their family staff and everybody else, these conversations need to happen. And they really, I believe, as far as I'm concerned, need to happen at every kitchen table because the risks around us are really, really affecting everyone, not just small to medium-sized businesses, but your everyday person as well.
Oh, totally, totally. Because I'm going to tell a funny story real quick before we jump in here. But I had just gotten hired at DataStream. I literally had been there maybe a week, and I get a text message from a number I didn't really recognize, but no, pardon me, not a text message, an email. And it looked like it was coming from Andy Anderson, our CEO. I mean, had his name out, perfect, all that good stuff. I was, Des, just like you said, I was going so fast. I just looked at it and it was like, hey, could you go buy 4 $250 gift cards? I want to send it out to some of our partners. And I was like, oh, that sounds reasonable. Let me go do this. And lo and behold, I was at the store and he happened to call me to just ask me a question. I was like, hey, Andy, do you have a preference? Should I get like Visa gift cards or Amex or MasterCard? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I said, yeah, the message you shot me. I said, I don't have it right now with me. I said, but yeah, you shot me an email saying, could I go and do this? And I replied back to you a couple of times and you said, yeah. And I said, and he's like, Larry, that was not me. And I was just sitting there going, yeah, okay. I just made a real good impact here at a cyber insurance company within my first week. I guess I need to find a new job at this point. But point being, it can happen to any of us, and it has. And if it hasn't, it will. Humans are naturally curious. They're going to click on things. And yeah, that's our biggest challenge out there.
Larry, it's not even emails anymore. It happened to my company. It was in November, December, where several of my employees started getting text messages.
Yeah.
Now, thankfully, they were all, in tune with it enough. And, but then a policy that we put in place is like, hey, everybody, put my cell phone number in your phone. That way, if anybody ever tries to impersonate me again, you'll know for a fact it's not me.
Yeah, it's scary. And it's interesting you bring that up, because mobile devices are one of the biggest things right now, really, for hackers to kind of come after. And, and so talking about cyber risk, cyber insurance, all that good stuff, what's the importance here? Everyone has data. I don't care what business you're in. Everybody has some type of data. It could be PII, personal identifying information. Maybe you're in the healthcare business. Obviously, you got healthcare records, all of that good stuff. Credit card transaction history, different things like that, financial accounts. Everybody's got data. So hackers want that. And the scary thing is, we talk about the media coverage of cyber attacks and everything else, and it's only the big ones that you hear about, like Colonial Pipeline and some of the others, because those are huge. They're multi-million, if not $1 billion. And for MSPs, man, it makes your job hard, because how many of you are talking with clients out there that sit there and go, I'm too small. Who's going to attack me? I'm not that important. That only happens to the big guys. I don't need cyber insurance. I don't need all this cyber technology. You're just trying to sell me stuff. You're just trying to get more money out of me. I mean, I hear this when I talk with our MSP partners all the time. This seems to be something very common that customers, the SMB customers, are telling their MSPs. So, these are some hard numbers right here to look at. They're hard to comprehend, but they're real. And to me, the most impactful one up there is that 60% of small businesses that have some type of a breach go out of business within 6 months. That's huge.
Larry, when I first started in this industry, there was somebody that came up to me and said that small to medium-sized business owners, including managed service providers, are the only ones who want to spend 80 hours a week working for themselves, so they don't have to spend 40 hours a week working for someone else. And to me, that feels like a lot of missed dinners, a lot of missed events with families, and really a lot of stress, and for also that you can support economies, like little economies. Let's face it, these are little economies. You're helping other people's families and kids and all that. And to the idea that if one person clicks something, like me, click something, and then 60% of businesses go under after an attack, how do we protect this? How do we keep these businesses up and running? I know that we're going to talk about the layered security approach and all of the things that we have to talk about consistently all the time. But this is one of the reasons why I'm loving this conversation so much, because in the end, we can come in as the bad guys and say, hey, everything that you guys, managed services providers, have been talking about this entire time, SMB, you need to do this because you put your heart and your soul and everything into growing your business. And it only takes one click for someone to take that all away from you.
Now, when you reference SMB, are we talking the usual 100 employees or less, or when you're referencing SMB, what do you mean by that as far as size?
Yeah, typically when we're saying SMB, we're looking under 500 employees, which would encompass obviously medium-sized businesses, but small businesses typically definitely under 100 employees. Sometimes I think I've seen people define it more under 25 employees. So yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about here, and that's who we're kind of focused on, is the SMB. So just kind of moving on. I mean, we had those figures out there. I know you guys can read it. I don't need to recite it to you from the screen here, or read the screen to you, is what I'm trying to say, and not doing it very successfully. So why is cyber insurance valuable to your customers? Well, cyber risk literally is the biggest risk that many businesses face right now, because the damage can be massive, losses that can go into the millions. It can destroy a business. It can destroy a livelihood. And it's a risk, because Michael and Corey can probably speak to this better than I can. This threat environment is changing, not weekly, not daily. It's changing hour by hour, if not minute by minute. You've got active human threat actors out there. They're constantly innovating. They're constantly evolving. There's new stuff coming around the corner right now, and none of us on this webinar probably even know about it. It's always changing. But you know what? There's other reasons why cyber insurance is valuable to your customer. I mean, the coverage is very, very comprehensive. It is several policies rolled into one. It covers first party, it covers third party liability. It covers the vast majority of any digital damage or computer related damage. And, you know, quite honestly, if you take a look at it, the cost of cyber insurance is surprisingly low. It typically costs less than 10% of the total IT budget. So we're not trying to suck a lot of money away from MSPs. We're actually going to show you how we're hopefully driving money and spend to you guys here in just a few minutes. But you know, typically you take a look at a small business under $10 million in revenue, and you cannot recite this as, you know, pure fact, but on average, premium should be probably 5,000 or a little bit less. So it's not a whole lot of amount of money, but man, the protection that you get is absolutely huge. And so while we're talking about just cyber insurance in general, before we get into some more specific stuff, one of the things we were just going to talk about here is, what does a good cyber policy cover? And a good cyber policy is a standalone cyber insurance policy. This is not a rider off of a CGL or a business owner's policy, because quite honestly, we sadly joke that if you've got a rider off of a CGL or a business owner's policy and you have an incident, that's pretty much going to buy bagels and coffee for the incident response team for the first day or two, and that's about all it's going to cover. So a good standalone cyber insurance policy it's going to cover data breaches, business interruption, cyber extortion. You know, those are the big ones. But there's a lot of things underneath those that are really important to the small and medium-sized business owner. You know, it's going to cover your legal fees. It's going to cover any fees where you have to go and notify all of your customers about, hey, we've had a breach, we've had an incident, something like that. IT forensics, crisis media relations support, bricking cost. Obviously, you know, when we start talking cyber extortion, yeah, that's just another word for ransom. So, you know, it will pay ransoms, all of that good stuff, as well as the services of legal and IT experts like yourselves. Staff overtime comes into play. So there's a whole lot of stuff that a good policy covers. And before we get into some of the specifics that's in there for you guys, the MSPs, you know, we are seeing a tiered system starting to develop amongst the cyber insurance carriers out there. You know, certain carriers offer better policies, but those that have those better policies often have much more stringent requirements attached to them, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Yet you've got other carriers that may not have as many requirements. And, you know, sometimes these may not be the best policies for a customer, especially when it comes to the premium that they're paying, the deductible. And, you know, I don't know if anybody here on the call knows what a pay on behalf of policy is, but, you know, typically insurance policies can be reimbursement or pay on behalf of. Reimbursement means that small business owner has to dish out some money and then, you know, wait 30, 60, 90, sometimes longer days to get reimbursed by the insurance company. So when we help customers, we're always looking for the best policy for them. And if we can find a really solid pay on behalf of policy, which means that SMB doesn't have to dish out any money, we're always going to try to recommend that. So,
Claire,
yeah,
while we're in here,
Des.
I got to ask a question here.
Okay.
Because there's a question in the chat, and I think both of these things will be answered at once. When we're looking, a lot of the times when we're out on the road, we have conversations about, okay, what about the insurance companies that aren't paying out? What does it look like? So one of the questions came in was, what are the difference of a customer qualifying for a policy and actually having a claim approved? And I think that's an important conversation point to kind of sit and talk about.
No, I think it's a very important conversation point to talk about. And it's definitely something I was going to talk about here in a little bit when we get into it. But while we got it up
I got ahead of you.
You did. Didn't even give me a good segue. No, so, and it's a very, very valid point. And, one of the biggest problems that we have seen, and obviously you hear about this stuff all the time, when carriers don't pay on a policy. Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, the main reason is either the customer didn't really have the things in place that they said that they had in place at the time of application, which, by the way, folks, it's also called insurance fraud. Or the other thing is they may have these things in place, but they didn't really document that they had these things and have the proof ready to show that, yes, I had MFA here, I had this there, I had, all these different things. You got to, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, you really got to document everything that you attest to so that you can make sure that you can prove it in a court of law if something ever happens. So good question, Des. Thank you so much. So
yeah, that same question went just a little bit deeper, Larry, and asked the question of, this particular client coming in from anonymous, that 3/4 of their infrastructure is Windows 7, Server 2008, no EDR, no security outside. I would say is that if they're attesting to, that policy said, do you have these things? And you answer yes, and you don't have them. Well, I think that goes right back to that's fraud.
Bingo. That is fraud. You cannot lie on an insurance application.
Yeah, it's
period. It could get you in trouble. Big trouble.
Every time. And there's no point about it. Because they will figure it out. Because when they send that forensics team in, or somebody comes in to do that investigation and they say, hey, you said you were doing log management, or you said you had MFA, or you said you had EDR. Can you give us those logs? Can you show us those portals? Can you give us that information so that we can help you recover? And then they find out you don't have it. And it's not good for
I don't know if you guys remember. It was like, I want to say October, November of last year. There was a big thing with travelers. I can't remember who the customer was, but essentially what we're talking about right now is what happened. The customer, I think, had said we had all these things in place, and then they had an incident. And then when Travelers forensics team got involved, they discovered, no, you don't have MFA on every device. You've got all these other things out there. So they rescinded the policy. The customer tried to sue them, but they ended up losing in a court of law. So, it was, huge stuff. So we're talking about those carriers with the stringent requirements. So right now, what we're seeing pretty much across the board, these are the requirements that most carriers have right now. Multi-factor authentication on email, remote access, privileged access, all that good stuff. Rotating passwords, password management, all that stuff that everybody preaches, and probably many of us, except for Michael and Corey, don't practice what we preach. Offline cloud backups, endpoint detection and response, so EDR, or it could be MDR, XDR, doesn't really matter. They're just looking for that endpoint detection and response. And one of the fastest rising ones these days is because of people like Des skimming her email and clicking on phishing stuff, and Larry going out and trying to buy gift cards and all of that fun stuff. End user security awareness training on a regular basis, not just in January of 2023, and then maybe you'll do it again in 2025. You need to be doing ongoing end user security awareness training quarterly, twice a year. Some people are doing it monthly, but that one has quickly risen, because the two biggest ones here that can really help is the MFA and end user security awareness training. So those are the requirements. So I'm sure many of you at this point are like, this is cool. I like what we're hearing, but who the heck are you guys? We haven't heard of DataStream. Well, we are DataStream. We are a specialist cyber insurance only broker. We've been around for about 2 years, but we've really only been visible in the channel for about the past year. And what's really cool here is our parent company is a company called Envelop Risk. And they're a company out of the UK that has very rapidly risen to become the world's third largest cyber reinsurance company. Now, probably everybody on this webinar is a lot smarter than me, but when I first started here, I was like, what the heck is a reinsurance company? Well, if you, like me, don't know what that was or is, a reinsurance company is an insurance company that insures other insurance carriers. So why is that important? Well, it's important because if we're insuring all these other carriers, that means we own a little bit of every claim that has ever come in. So we have visibility to claims data, a lot of claims data. Matter of fact, we insure roughly 90% of the carriers in North America, which gives us a huge data set. And under the hood, we have some absolutely brilliant people at this company. We're actually a data science company who is looking at all of this historic claims data. We're using artificial intelligence as well as machine learning to kind of get into this and figure out, how do we make this better? How do we make it easier? And some of the stuff that they do, Max Henderson is our chief data scientist, and the guy's absolutely brilliant. I already told you, Andy, our CEO, is brilliant. We're surrounded by some incredibly smart people that are doing some real neat stuff that I'm going to show you as we get into this. So that's who we are. Sorry I took so long to introduce us, but I kind of just wanted to talk about the state of the cyber insurance world right now and what's going on. Now, what I really want to talk about is how cyber insurance can become or should be the MSP's friend or the MSSP's friend, because cyber insurance has quickly become the de facto regulator in the space. Cyber insurance is driving spend. It is accelerating spend because, you know, if you've got any of your clients out there that go to get a small business loan, for example, lenders have gotten burned in the past. So now they're putting it into their lending requirements that, hey, if I'm going to loan you some money, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, you better have cyber insurance because we don't want to get burned. Or vendor contracts, they're often now requiring cyber insurance. So, and we're going to see that, I think, continue rather than fade away.
Yeah, Michael and I hear that when we go to these conferences about how cyber insurance companies are making it easier. You know, those customers that just will not spend that little bit of extra money for the security that the MSP wants them to have. And now cyber insurance is making it easy for them. And in turn, makes it easy for us as well.
And I got to admit, last year, you know, we did a whole bunch of conferences, you know, channel related conferences. We talked to MSPs all the time. You know, many of them in their MSA say that they suggest that their customers have cyber insurance. But here this year, we've done how many, Des? 3 conferences, 2 conferences, 3 conferences? I'm not sure. I've already lost track. But I've already met easily, I can count 4 MSPs that told me they have it in their MSA that the only way they'll do business with a client is if they do have cyber insurance. And if they don't, they'll help them get cyber insurance, but otherwise they're just going to walk away from the business. Obviously, I realize not every MSP can have that luxury of turning business away, but I do see that this is becoming a trend among MSPs. The smarter ones are kind of saying, hey, we really got to get serious about this because, you know, all the clients that you service, if they don't have insurance, it just increases your liability as the MSP. So what we're encouraging here, we got the little bar stool. We like to use this little 3-legged bar stool thing, but adopt a holistic approach to cyber posture. Use cyber insurance to really guide the process. Look, you guys are already selling the best tools and technology out there. You're involved in compliance and probably legal as well with your customers, making sure they stay within regulatory confines, all of that fun stuff. But to really have a secure foundation, a secure cyber posture, it really involves all 3 legs of this bar stool. And that 3rd leg is cyber insurance. So you guys as MSPs can lead the way here. If you're not engaging your clients in all 3 of those legs of the bar stool, all 3 of those areas, you're doing a disservice to your clients. And here's the worst thing. You're opening the door for an MSP who is having these conversations about a holistic approach, because we've got a bunch of partners that have come on board. They've adopted this. They're having the conversations. They're utilizing the risk assessments that I'm going to show you here in a few moments. And those assessments make it so easy for the MSP to identify security posture shortcomings and turn those into very quick project spend opportunities or reinvigorate old opportunities. How many of you have tried to sell MFA to your customers only to hear them go, once again, I'm too small, I'm not important enough, it's too expensive, it's too complicated. All of a sudden you bring us in, we get to play the bad cop and we get to say, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, you really need to listen to your partner here, the MSP, because these guys know what they're doing. They've been recommending this, and we're here to tell you that without MFA, you may still be insurable, but you're certainly not going to get the best policies. You're not going to have the best carriers. You're going to have a higher premium. You really need to implement this, because as things continue, more and more contracts of companies that you do business with are going to require that you have cyber insurance and that you have good cyber insurance. So again, if you're not engaging in this with all of your clients, talking about all three of these things, again, that's tools and technology, legal and compliance, and cyber insurance, you're doing a disservice. But if you are having these conversations, all of a sudden, you get to solidify your position as basically a one-stop shop for all things cyber. They can come to you for the best tools. They can come to you for the best processes. Now you've got a partner that you can recommend on the insurance, hopefully in DataStream, and you become that one-stop shop for your clients. And ultimately, look, guys, it's so much cheaper to keep existing clients than it is to find new clients. So this is all about making those customers stickier to you guys, create that customer entanglement, make it harder for those clients to leave you because they don't want to leave you. But why is it valuable? Why is cyber insurance valuable to you as an MSP, MSSP? Well, obviously compliance. I'm sure many of you have healthcare and finance customers out there. You already know there's regulations in place that require those companies to have cyber insurance. I already mentioned this a few minutes ago, liability protection. Help get your customers covered, because it's going to ultimately reduce your liability. It's going to give you peace of mind. It's going to give your customers peace of mind as well. Your clients is going to have the assurance that their business has been protected against all financial losses. Tools are not perfect, guys. You know this. And again, we've got active human threat actors out there that are changing the rules of the game every damn day. They can get through these tools and shut businesses down. Cyber insurance can help protect these companies against those financial losses. It can help protect livelihoods. And it can give you guys peace of mind knowing that you have taken every single necessary step to help provide a holistic defense for all of your clients, which in turn can protect your reputation. So if you do have a cyber, or a customer does have a cyber incident, I hate to tell you, but your reputation could get tarnished if that client thinks you didn't recommend cyber insurance to them. What do you mean? Aren't these tools and technology, isn't that good enough? No, it's not good enough. Well, why didn't you tell me about cyber insurance? And all of a sudden, you could face some pretty ugly circumstances with clients.
Larry,
So,
I know you've probably heard
Michael.
Brad Gross speak, but Brad
Yes.
talks about the legalities behind being that subject matter expert and coming in and telling the client what to do, and then allowing them to basically tell you no. And they think that these indemnification statements stop you from being sued or whatever it may be. But when you talk to Brad, there's a big shift in the marketplace out there. And so, you said MSPs that don't have the luxury of walking away, it could be a life-ending event for your business if you don't walk away because somebody decides to hang you out to dry. Even though they told you no 800 times, you could still find yourself on the wrong end of it. And like Brad said, if you've got enough money, I've got enough time, and don't have to win the fight, but man, can it be financially damaging.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And those of you, if you've not listened to Brad, he's phenomenal. He's got, what do you call it? The Bradcast. I listened to it the other day.
Yeah.
It's his podcast, and the man's smart cookie. Yeah, take a listen to him if you haven't. So
I've got
Go,
one
Des.
other thing that I want to throw in here as well. If we talk about like the risk approach and the why you need to have these conversations, there's going to be some middle ground here too, where you look at you guys as a managed service provider and you're like, okay, I'll take care of all your technology needs. I'm going to be that person that if you have questions, if you have cybersecurity questions, I will be there. Okay, what about insurance? Just go ask Google. Feels broken. And like, if you can have a partner that you develop a relationship with, I know in the channel we talk about partnership all the time. All of us vendors, we talk about partnership and partnership. And there ends up being this like this conversation. We're like, well, what does that actually mean? We literally are your partner. Because
Yeah.
like we're not profiting, we're wanting to sell insurance to your end users and give them the service and support that you are expecting from us. We want to build a relationship with you that you can trust us enough to have these conversations on your behalf or handheld the whole entire way with your clients to make sure that not only they're secure, that they're listening to you, that we can be that bad guy. And I just really love that storyline and being able to really trust those relationships.
No, absolutely. I mean, I always joke. I'm like, I don't know why we say we're in sales, because this is the first time I've ever been in the channel where I don't have anything to sell. Because folks, to sell insurance, you got to be a licensed insurance agent. And we're licensed in all 50. We're licensed in Canada, except for Quebec. You know, hey, Quebec is Quebec. Let's not talk about them. But to sell insurance, you got to be licensed. You guys want to go out and take the exam, pass it, all that good stuff? Go for it. We can work with you. But most of you have plenty of things on your plate. You don't want to go out there and do that. And just think of us as an extension of your sales team. You know, just call in the expert here, because all we do is cyber insurance, because cyber insurance is a much different beast than any other insurance product out there. And really, you know, we kind of founded this whole I shouldn't say that, Andy and Max and others founded this company because they were like, you know, you got insurance companies over here talking about it, cyber insurance companies, you got technology firms talking, and these guys aren't talking to each other. They're all operating in silos. So we're trying to kind of bridge that gap. DataStream is bridging that gap between the technology world and the cyber insurance carriers. You know, we're working with MSPs. We're learning from you guys. We're here to educate you. We're here to educate your customers. And we're here to have fun in the process. And not only that, being a partner with us is absolutely free. And on top of it, everything we do for you guys is essentially free. And we've come up with what we call our CIRA that's on the screen here. This is what we call our cyber insurance readiness assessment. All right. First things first, I am going to go out here and I'm going to tell you, this is not a perfect science by any means whatsoever. However, this is a way for you guys to get in front of the process before the customer applies for cyber insurance to help identify, are there any shortcomings? This is exactly the same thing that every cyber insurance carrier does at the time of application with the customer. They go out and they scan the customer's domain, and it comes back and it signals to them if they see any red flags. It kind of says, hey, we're gonna have to take a look at this. We need to dig deeper on the back end, find out what's going on behind the firewall, all of that good stuff. So like I said, not a perfect science, because I know many of you are going, hey, what does it mean? Who cares if we scan the domain? Trust us on this. This is just a way to get in front of this. And this cyber insurance readiness assessment gives you some information that allows you to put some cold, hard facts in front of customers. Remember earlier, I told you that under the hood, we're a data science company. So we have access to all of this data, and we can actually calculate a baseline expected risk. And then we can take a look at a customer's posture. In working with the MSP, you can give us information on behind the firewall, but then we can establish a modeled risk against that baseline. And we can put some hard, cold figures out here. And you can share this with the customer if you want to, but basically like how risky our business is like yours. So this is taking a look at the vertical, at the revenue band that customer's in. And we, for this one, it was $74,000 is the average economic loss of any type of cyber attack. Then we kind of compare them against their peers. how does my business look against other, if I'm an accounting firm with $1 million in revenue, how do I look at against other accounting firms of similar size? And in this report, my company is actually a little bit riskier than my peers, which means they're doing something better than what I'm doing. Then we kind of come over here and we just kind of show you what the total cost of claims were in that particular vertical, which in this case is actually a healthcare vertical. So almost 72 million in cyber insurance claims. Average claim, 74,000. Worst claim, 6.6 million. So for those businesses that are coming to you and saying, I'm too small, ask them, can they afford to pay losses like this if they have some type of an attack? All right, so let me keep going here.
Larry, I just wanted to give you a time check here and let you know we got about 15 more minutes.
Yep,
we get
that's
to the
why I
top of
was
the hour, and want to make sure you got some time because there's some questions that are coming in too, but I want to let you go a little bit more.
Let's kind of go through this. So we talked about the CIRA report. So we also have another one called our Partner Portfolio Risk Report that basically enables us to kind of analyze your portfolio of clients and triage them into groups, green, yellow, and red. And let's kind of jump into this. This is going into that baseline expected risk. So you give us the domains of your customers. We're going to give you individual cyber insurance assessment reports that you can share with those customers if you want to. Again, those reports go to you guys. They don't go to the customer because we don't want to create a potential issue between a customer and you. So we send it to you so you can see it first. But now we've got that baseline risk. We're talking about that modeled risk that you can see. If you've got a company that sits above that baseline risk, that means they're a little bit riskier. And if they're below it, they're a little less risky. Sorry, guys, I'm jumping through this because I want to make sure we got some time for Q&A. And then also in this partner risk report, we're trying to make things stupid easy for you guys because MSPs are some of the busiest people I've ever met. They've got so much going on. So we've tried to make this really easy. So we'll list out all your domains. There's a download button right here for you to download those individual reports. And if you decide you want to share it with your customer, you simply click on the share button. And not only do you share it, but we've already written customizable email templates. It's always easier to just edit a template than it is to come up with one on your own. These templates are by vertical. So we've already kind of put some homework into it. We've come up with those email templates to make it real easy for you. We also have some other things like cybersecurity posture checklist. And this is based off of what carriers are looking at. This is all stuff that is downloadable in our partner portal. Yep, everybody's got a partner portal, but ours we try to make really, really useful for you guys. We've got lots of marketing materials, including co-branded material where you can just put your logo on it right there on the site and download it, send it out to your customers. You can actually refer customers to us through here and track your customer through the application process so you always know what's going on, you name it. So we're here to be that expert resource for you guys in a world that perhaps some of you aren't terribly familiar with, and cyber insurance. And the portal that we've got it's always changing. And some of these are future topics that we're going to be putting out there in the portal. So we're always trying to keep you guys in front of things. Again, we're here to educate. We're here to be that resource. Oh, and I almost forgot, Des, the digital transaction process for the customers. I'm sorry, I kind of jumped around. I meant to put this slide somewhere else in the deck. My bad. Sorry, guys. But going back to the whole customer side thing here real quick. Again, we're trying to make it fast and easy for the MSPs. We're also trying to make it fast and easy for your customers as well. We have a complete digital transaction process where they fill out a universal application online. They only have to fill it out one time. Then we're going to go do all the legwork. Again, we got 40 plus carriers out there. We're going to farm it out, find out who is interested in giving us a quote on these guys. And it's fast. I don't know if you guys ever use like Policy Genius or Jerry. There's an app out there where you can get quotes for home and auto insurance. I've used it several times. It's phenomenal. We're doing the same thing here for cyber insurance. So you apply once, we come back, we give the customer, we give them a grid of all the quotes that come back, and then we highlight the differences in each one of these, and we make sure that that customer understands what each one of these policies covers. And this digital transaction process is going phenomenal. We're binding, which means in the insurance world, closing roughly 70% of those deals that go through that process. Some customers can't go all the way through the digital process because they may have had a breach in the past and they become a little bit more complex. But even with those, we typically can get a quote out to them within about 48 hours, if not faster. After they bind with us, we can do things like help them develop a incident response plan or refine an incident response plan. We can work with you, the MSP, in that because many of you have already done it. We can do disaster recovery plans. We talked about documenting what was attested to. We've got an audit tool that kind of helps with that. We also do tabletop exercises to help test these IRPs and DRPs, you name it. So guys, we're just here to help educate, be your expert resource for all things cyber. Help you identify your customer security posture needs before they apply, which is going to in turn hopefully drive new sales for you, accelerate the sales side. I'm going to leave this up here. I know I shouldn't put a QR code. My internet connection's unstable.
You went a little. Okay. You went a little Tron there for a minute.
Yeah, sorry, I'm in a hotel. You know what it's like. I know I'm putting a QR code up here, but I've scanned it with my phone. This is a link to our real simple partner agreement. Application, if you want to call it that. Our partner program is free. Everything we do for you guys is free. There is no quota. Just become a partner. We're here to help. We're here to just really, really add value to what all of you are doing. All right, let me shut up. Time for questions.
So I answered a bunch of these questions. Oh,
yep. Go ahead, Des.
Cool. So I did answer. There's a bunch more that popped up at the end, but so two questions just I think that are important to make sure that I don't know if you said out loud because I was typing, but to talk about the risk assessment being the domains and why we use that versus compared to the insurance companies, Larry. Just to make sure I didn't lie.
Say that again one more time, Des. I was reading some of those questions myself.
Okay.
My bad. I turned them off.
These are the ones that these are the ones I answered earlier. So the risk assessment that we use, we're just getting the domains. If you could just talk to that again.
Yeah. So when your customers go out and apply for insurance, and let's say you got a rogue customer that goes out and applies on their own, okay? And that insurance company is going to do a scan on their domain. They just want to see, what's the attack surface map look like, which is basically a roadmap for a hacker to be able to find your domain. And then they're going to take into effect, any open ports that are out there, CVEs, different things like that. If that carrier sees some red flags when they do this at application, it could cause a bit of a problem for you because they're going to tell that customer, hey, we see some things that we're concerned about. And all of a sudden, maybe that customer is going to come back to you and go, hey, why am I paying you all this money if when I tried to apply for cyber insurance, it's raising some red flags? So we're doing the same scan and just encouraging you to give us those domains so that we can help you identify any potential shortcomings before those customers apply. Did that answer what you were asking, Des?
Yep, perfect. That's good. I just want to make sure the clarification was out there.
Yeah,
and then another question that I answered, but that was written down was about MFA. People who say that they have MFA and then they're filling out the insurance or they're still saying that they don't have MFA or they only have it at one level and they're still getting insured. So how do we work with our partners to bring the value back to our MSPs when we find holes? Makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, it's better to have MFA than not. If you don't have MFA, you're dramatically reducing the number of carriers that would work with you, and also the policies that they're going to offer are not going to be nearly as good and comprehensive as one from a higher tiered carrier. Premiums are going to be way higher if you don't have MFA than if you do. And I know everybody's always asking, can you put some economic terms to that? And unfortunately, it's really, really hard because it depends on the vertical, the size of the company, the security posture. So it's really hard to just throw a figure of, if you put MFA in place, it's going to reduce your premium by 10%. That may be true in one vertical, but in another vertical, it might be 30%. In another vertical, it might be somewhere in between there. It's just hard to say.
Hey, Larry, here's some
Yeah.
statistics around MFA. So I was at Write a Boom last week, and they had the executive director of CISA who was presenting through web, but doing it live. In the Microsoft ecosystem, in the enterprise Microsoft ecosystem, it was either 32 or 34% of the Microsoft enterprise ecosystem uses MFA. I mean, 1 in 3, basically. That is a ridiculously low.
That
Microsoft
is.
came out and said, last time I heard it was 1.2, I think it's a little bit higher, but 1.2 million accounts for sure every month are compromised. 99.3% of them have no MFA. You know, this is that one thing that I think is we as an industry, as MSPs, as MSSPs, this is the de facto standard. Walk away from the client that tells you no, they're not going to do it because it's too hard, it's too whatever. Because Thomas, he put himself out there and he said, you know, that they were taken to task by lawyers because they did not present the need for security strongly enough. Now, I don't know that that wasn't true, but whether the customer heard it or didn't hear it, it became a very expensive event. And, you know, the attorneys were claiming that they didn't do it in a way that the end user could fully understand the ramifications. Again, my opinion for this is fire them before it causes you some huge financial obligation that you shouldn't have to undertake. And MFA is 1.2 million accounts, 33 or 32 or 34%. When the executive director of CISA is talking about MFA, and we've been doing this for so many years now, folks, we got a problem. This should just be non-negotiable with insurance or without, in my opinion.
Big
I call it the
problem.
Frank's Red Hots. We've all seen that commercial, and it's that idea of you put that shit on everything. Period. Make it
Bingo.
easy.
I was about to say it for you. Yeah, put that shit on everything. Absolutely. You have to. So, folks, as we draw to the top of the hour here, I know there's probably a bunch of other questions. Looking at Dez's face there, either that or she's got computer problems.
Well, apparently,
Well, and I haven't been monitoring the questions because I know you guys were. Michael, do we get a copy of all these questions so that we can follow up afterwards?
We don't, but most of the partners on here are our partners because we use our database, guys.
Cool.
If anybody sends us an email, we will forward them over to Larry and to Des. This was just to try to do something good for our community and help. This recording we're going to give to Larry and Des so they can use it. We will put it on our YouTube channel, but we'll make sure that we share all of this stuff. Everybody knows how to get a hold of me, get out of Corey. We'll make sure we get you in touch with them to do it right. There was one really good question, and Larry, I want your opinion on this, and I'm going to tell you my personal feeling on this. Chris said, if a customer uses a framework standard like NIST, so let's say 800-171 with attestation tools for compliance, or I'll say even that they've been externally audited, does it help to improve the risk score on insurance? So Larry, I want you to answer it first, and then I'm going to come behind and tell you my personal experience on this one.
That sounds good. And I'm going to be absolutely bluntly honest here. I am still so new to insurance. Remember, guys, I'm a channel guy that came into insurance. So do not take this answer as gospel by any means. My answer, and I hope it agrees with Michael's, and I'm pretty damn sure I'll probably disagree, but I'm going to say, yes, I do think it certainly, it's not going to hurt. Michael,
so
am I right or wrong?
From our personal experience, we are NIST 800-171 compliant. We have been externally audited. We have an external company that stays on top of this and helps us with our documentation and everything else. When it came time for renewal, we were getting smashed. And we started choking the insurance vendor with documentation, proving everything that we did. Our rates went up that much because we were able to prove. And then that's very uncommon because the insurance industry, it's like going to Vegas. The house always wins. So the insurance company's been getting smashed so hard that they're trying to recover and get some of their losses back. But we found that type of compliance, and it doesn't have to be NIST because that's a beast. You know, it could be something as simple as CIS. You know, and I think that was a huge talk of town last week at Write a Boom. Everything was about CIS. And find a framework that you could adhere to and one that you can get on board with. And, you know, I like what Matt Lee says, make it defensible. You're not going to be perfect because nothing is, but do the do the deeds of making your actions defensible, and people will look at it as reasonably trying to do the right thing because nobody's expecting perfection. And the insurance companies aren't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Matt, love Matt. He is, the guy is brilliant. Oh my gosh. But
yeah, you and me both, man.
He's such a good guy. But Michael, Corey, Des, thank you to the partners in the audience out there. Thank you guys for listening to all of this, and hopefully it helped. Love to become a partner of you guys. Obviously, if you got some questions, shoot them over to Michael or Corey. They'll forward it over to us, and Des and I will do our best. Yes, ma'am. I see you raising your hand.
I was just going to say, Des at DataStream Insurance, super easy. Shoot me an email. I've been watching my email. A lot of you guys have reached out. So thank you so much. I really want to work with you guys. I'm excited to help your clients out, help you guys out. And yeah, thanks everyone else for having me.
Absolutely. We're so glad to have you. So lucky to have you. And, I keep joking that we're going to put a contest in place that, if we increase our partner count by so much, I may have to dye my hair hot pink or something for a while. That would be kind of scary.
This is, I think this is the first time we've ever done this. I'm glad that we could do it with the both of you. You guys have been channel champions for a very long time. And, we want to be thought leaders in this industry. We don't want to just talk about what we do. We don't want to just talk about the SOC that we have and all of the other things that we do. And so, this is the first of many. So I'm really happy. We had a great outcome today. Lots of people attended. We hope that there's some value that you got out of this. And, I think what Larry and Des have going on here is a really great next step for everybody that attended. And MSPs need this. It's no longer okay to turn a blind eye and say, it's your responsibility, because it's not. As the MSPs, you are the subject matter experts. You're expected to know it all. And you have to surround yourself with really focused people that have that subject matter expertise. And I love this saying, every heart surgeon is a doctor, but not every doctor is a heart surgeon. Let DataStream be your heart surgeon.
Precisely, I love it.
Be the general practitioners that you are as doctors, and the people that they turn to for every nick, bite, bleed, scuff, whatever it may be. Be that amazing practitioner that builds a team, that brings it together. Because honestly, if we don't do it together, the threat actors are going to continue to win, and we're all just going to suck.
Yeah. I love that, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much
for having us. Thanks, everybody.
Have a great one.
Take care. Bye-bye.